Welcome to the Doctor's Life Podcast with Diane Ansari-Winn, MD. Dr. Diane is a stress and burnout coach for doctors. With her 15 years of experience as an anesthesiologist and certification as a physician development coach, Dr. Diane coaches doctors on how to live a rich life of purpose, fulfillment, freedom, and happiness both at work and at home. In this podcast, Dr. Diane brings together doctors and researchers that are experts in health, wellness, stress, and burnout, as well as doctors that have been successful in clinical practice, academics, non-clinical careers, and business to share their expertise and life experience so that you can live your own life purpose, fulfillment, freedom, and happiness. To get free access to a PDF and video of easy and proven strategies that melt stress away and keep it away, simply register at www.dianeansari-winn.com. That's www.dianeansari-winn.com. Now here is your host, Dr. Diane Ansari-Winn.
Hi, it's Dr. Diane here, and I have a quick request before we jump into the show. If you like this podcast, it would mean so much if you took just a moment to hop over to iTunes, write a review, and rate the show. That is how other people will find the show and get the same great value from it that I hope that you're getting. It just takes a few moments to click a star rating and write a quick note. Now, on to the show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Doctor's Life podcast. Today we have a special treat. We are interviewing Dr. Bento Soares. He is a professor at the University of Illinois with a very long and distinguished history in research. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself? And then we're going to talk about your passion in cognitive-based compassion training. What it is and how you're bringing it to University of Illinois and how it can help medical professionals.
Oh, thank you so much. It's a pleasure, and I really appreciate the opportunity to contribute to this conversation. So yeah, I have all my life been dedicated to research. I got trained at Columbia in genetics and development, worked for many years on the Human Genome Project. I was faculty at Columbia, then at University of Iowa, then at Northwestern, and since February 2015 at the University of Illinois College of Medicine, the campus in Peoria. And for many years, my research has focused on cancer, and to a great extent driven by my personal life and losses that I suffered with cancer that really started to really motivate me to begin to apply the genomic methodologies and approaches that I was using in the context of the Human Genome Project research, but more focused to cancer research. And here at the College of Medicine in Peoria, I serve as Senior Associate Dean for Research and also Head of the Cancer Biology and Pharmacology Department, where we have a lot of research going on cancer, also in neuroscience. But I'm very much interested in wellness in the healthcare setting, especially, and much of that interest is driven by my observation in the course of the losses that I suffered. I had the opportunity to witness how challenging it is for even very senior physicians to endure the transition from that time when some drug can still be offered to the time beyond that when nothing else insofar as a drug can be offered, but that's far from saying that nothing can be offered. But that which can be offered at that time, care, support, presence, requires skill to be developed. And that's where the cognitively based compassion training program comes into play, because it provides the skills that one needs to have a secure base to be able to not become distressed, but rather be able to engage in a helpful way, helpful to him or herself and helpful to the person he or she is caring for. The current situation in the healthcare setting is quite alarming. But, many specialties, burnout rate exceeds 70%.
Yes.
And what is well known is that burnout is conducive to depression. Depression in turn tends to reduce empathy. So there's a whole cascade that's very detrimental to the provider and to the patient. You can imagine that with depression and decreased empathy, there is greater risk for errors, more malpractice lawsuits, patient dissatisfaction. It's a whole cascade that's very detrimental. And it's very sad because, students, I'm in admissions committee for the medical school, and I served before at Northwestern and at the University of Iowa. And you read these beautiful letters that applicants send to the medical schools, always describing some experience they had that really inspired and ignited that sense of altruism and real desire to pursue that profession and make a difference in people's lives. And so they come in with that altruism. And then you observe over time how out of fear to get damaged, they start to distance themselves from that aspiration. And what all the studies show is that doesn't protect them from burning out, from getting frustrated. So what we need is to teach skills that will help the caregivers to remain empathetic, but not in a distressing way.
Right,
so it's very interesting. The neuroscience has clearly shown the difference between what's referred to as empathetic distress and empathetic concern or engaged compassion. Empathetic distress activates pain centers in the brain. So if you empathize in a distressing way and your life is about caring for people who are suffering, you're going to live in chronic pain. Nobody can withstand that, and it's not a surprise that burnout ends up occurring so frequently.
The chronic psychic pain.
Yeah. So empathetic concern, in contrast, is a very pro-social state of being, and it activates regions of the brain that are associated with positive emotions. So it's engaging and it's uplifting. It's not
depressing. But how can one engage into this kind of positive empathy and not in the empathetic distress? It's not just like a switch. This is, I think, the take-home message. And the take-home message is that, again, neuroscience, thanks to what we know about neuroplasticity and epigenetics, has firmly established that well-being, compassion, this kind of empathy that we're talking about, these are skills that can be developed. But it's not unlike learning to play an instrument. Just attending a couple of lectures doesn't make us a player. Then Daniel Siegel, in one of his books, and I'm going to paraphrase, it was something like, just as being born with muscles doesn't make us athletes, being born with this biological compassion that we're all born with doesn't make us really compassionate in an unbiased, unlimited way. That requires developing certain skills. And that's where CBCT, or cognitively based compassion training comes in to play, because it's one of a few beautiful programs that have been developed. This one, cognitively based compassion training, or CBCT, was developed by Dr. Lobsang Nagy at Emory University. Stanford also has a program called Compassion Cultivation Training. And so CBCT is a secular program. It's very, very important to underscore that, because this is intended to help everyone, irrespective of faith or lack thereof, to help everyone.
I would say, too, that it's appealing because it's not woo-woo either. You know, for some of us, when we as medical practitioners start talking about feelings, that using our feelings is somehow diminishing our ability to practice medicine, because somehow if you feel your feelings, then they're going to cloud you or get in the way of the very important work that you have to do. And the beautiful thing about the cognitively based compassion training is that you actually are learning skills and how to work with your feelings, which are a very important component of us being human beings. As you said, we went into medicine because we felt altruism, which is an extremely positive emotion, and how to use those skills and that spark that we had to be able to actually become a better practitioner and a healthier practitioner, and that's why I love this so much.
Yeah, but it's exactly that. You said it all. That's exactly what it is, and it's but it is so true. And as I shared at an earlier point in this conversation, my own personal experience, I lived through difficult times with losses, and I witnessed this difficulty that the most experienced physicians have transitioning from the time when there's still something insofar as a drug is concerned to offer, and the time when there isn't anymore. But to have a secure base and a confidence to remain present and really benefit from that help, which is priceless at that point in time. But it requires skills. It requires a secure base to be able to do that without getting hurt. So anyway, back to the CBCT, I was saying that I really like to think of it as a toolbox for emotion regulation. It helps us build resilience and makes us kinder to ourselves and others. And it's very important to, there's a module in the CBCT protocol that's self-compassion. And it's very important that we learn to speak to ourselves with the respect that we talk to others. We sometimes are too harsh on ourselves and too judgmental about ourselves, and so I think that there's a series of concepts that are discussed and types of practices that one does that really helps us just learn to recognize the challenges that we have, see them as universal vulnerabilities. We all have vulnerabilities and limitations, and right? Embrace that. Doesn't help to put it under the rug. We embrace those vulnerabilities. And as we do that, we recognize the universality, that also is conducive to developing compassion towards others, even though, even in the context of developing self-compassion, as we touch these vulnerabilities that we have, at the moment that we recognize their universality, then it is immediately conducive to compassion towards others. They too are victims of the same vulnerabilities. It helps develop skills for us to become more mindful. And mindfulness is, it's there's so much available insofar as mindfulness training. And in the CBCT protocol, mindfulness includes not only what we typically think of mindfulness, being present in the moment, non-judgmentally, but it also includes recollecting those core values that we want present as we go about our days. So it's being mindful of what, through reflection, we decide are principles and qualities and values that we don't want to forget as we go about our days. And so I think that's an important component.
Yeah. And I can see that where, there can be the mistake that many of us make this, and not only in medicine, but in your daily life, that somehow that there's the life in which you have connection, happiness, joy, ease, and then there's your work day where you don't have those things. And given that the vast majority of us spend at least 8 hours, and that's on the low end, 8, 10, 12, 14 hours a day at work, to compartmentalize those things is to basically deny oneself some things that we really would like to be experiencing all of the time, to compartmentalize that into very small parts of our day. And what I'm hearing from you, it helps to integrate our day, so that in our life, so that the things that we want to experience in our lives, we can experience in our lives as we go throughout our entire day.
That's right. That's what CBCT is all about. It's really developing skills with the intention that you're going to be taking advantage of those skills in your everyday life. That's the purpose. So another important aspect is to help us recognize what triggers certain feelings, emotions, and causes us to react rather than respond with discernment to situations that occur to us. So there is a series of practices that help us observe our inner world of thoughts, emotions, feelings, and through observation, you can't help but notice some patterns. You can't help but notice that certain factors, certain thoughts may trigger some feelings, some emotions, and as you become better able, as you heighten this introspective awareness, and you become increasingly more able to notice, you have an opportunity to catch the spark before it becomes a fire. And that can be that can be very, very helpful in our everyday situations with it. The whole point is we have no control over what happens to us, but we have complete control over the way we relate to those adversities.
Yes.
Right? Again, it requires learning the skills and practicing these skills so that when we are challenged with situations that are difficult, that we can respond in a way that is helpful to ourselves and others. It helps us recognize our interdependence, and through that develop an appreciation to the countless people who directly and indirectly contribute to make our everyday lives possible and better. I mean, if we think about, just to have one good day, if you think about what it takes, when you consider from the basic needs being met to everything else, if we sit down to really think of who contributed, it's countless. And so just that reflection, just spending a couple of minutes in our day just thinking about that, and it changes our outlook, because these are people who we cross by as we are walking, and strangers who may have contributed so that we had running water and a hot shower and something placed in a shelf in a supermarket so that we could buy, and
exactly,
right? The roads that we access to go to work and everything. So the other thing that's big for the healthcare setting is the whole issue with stereotyping. This is a serious problem. The other day I was reading a paper showing how emergency departments, emergency rooms, typically prescribe less pain medication to African American women than to Caucasian women. Right? So there's all sorts of examples of stereotyping compromising the quality of care that's provided. And there have been groups studying using CBCT and other programs similar to CBCT and showing how this kind of training helps reduce stereotyping. Interestingly, it also enhances accuracy of perception. There's a study that was done where you show only pictures of the eyes, and not the whole face, just the eyes. And people have to tell by just looking at the eyes to tell what kind of emotion was being conveyed there. And the study showed an enhanced accuracy in perception of the emotion that was there being expressed through the eye expression in the group that had been trained. So very, very, very interesting. There have also been studies showing that when people are exposed to very stressful situations, for example, there's a social stress tests that's done, like people are subjected to a job interview and they are told they have only 5 minutes to tell the committee why they are better than everybody else, and then they're going to have their blood drawn before this interview, and then they are going to have to go back to the committee, and they are going to be subjected to a math test, and they don't even tell what kind of math test that's going to be. And the math test is they have to count down from 2017, 13 at the time. Very stressful, right? They try to make it better. They draw blood, before, in the middle, and after. And you can see cortisol and IL-6 levels really changing drastically as you go through the process. What the study showed was that the group that received this CBCT training, even though cortisol levels rise as they should, you have to be at your peak performance when you are being interviewed, but those levels go down quickly afterwards when you are no longer exposed to that stressful situation. But in the control group, it remains elevated for much, much, much longer.
Yes.
So that's, this is something that is very, very important. CBCT is being taught at medical schools, law schools. It's being offered to veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder, to cancer survivors, teachers, also a very stressful job.
Isn't it?
Youth, youth in foster care programs, incarcerated populations, couples in which a member is depressed. So there's a wide range of special populations that are being offered CBCT. So our hope here at the University of Illinois College of Medicine in Peoria is that we can, help students, residents, and faculty at large by making this program available to them. So we are 5 here at UEComp pursuing this training at Emory to become certified teachers of CBCT, and there is a colleague from the Methodist College of Nursing also here in Peoria. So we are 6. We are referred to as the Illinois Six-Pack. So we have been pursuing this teacher certification training for the past year at Emory University, and we are now very close to becoming certified teachers. The last requirement is that we teach the course for the first time, and then we have weekly meetings. We send video recordings of the teaching of the classes to our advisor at Emory, and we discuss weekly, get feedback, and we are teaching these first to the leaderships. So leadership at here at UEComp, leadership of partner hospitals, and across Peoria, several organizations are participating. There are members from Caterpillar, the American Cancer Society here, the Komen Foundation, so and the public school system. We have principals, we have the superintendent, we have the city manager, people in palliative care. So very, very interesting group. It's like 60 people.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a year-long course also for them, or
no?
what?
Yeah, I didn't mention. So the course, the CBCT is offered as an 8-week course. We meet with students once a week for 75 minutes, and they gain access to a media library at Emory where they can access video recordings, audio recordings of guided meditation. And there are 3 versions. For each week, it's a different set of meditations because in each week we discuss a different topic. Mm-hmm. And some are only 8 minutes long. The other is like 15 minutes long. The other maybe 25 minutes long. So depending on time availability, people can find one that suits their lifestyle and schedule. And so it's important to have this daily practice because CBCT is based on an approach that involves 3 stages. The first stage is just the intellectual understanding of the concepts. The next stage is when you reflect on those concepts. And the third stage is when upon that reflection, from time to time, you may arrive at some insights. And as that happens, that comes with a certain feeling, a certain emotion. So that's when you then just stay with that feeling. Over time, that starts to become ingrained. That starts to become part of you. So it's not just a concept, but it's something that now has become part of your experience. So that when you are exposed with that situation or a similar situation, you will be naturally responding in a way that's consistent with that reflection that you did and with the conviction that arose from that reflection. It's about shifting perspective. So you reconsider something that happened to you, for example, but taking into consideration things that we did not consider when that happened. And by doing so, you shift perspective. And by shifting perspective, the feeling changes and it becomes the overall emotion changes.
That's wonderful. In 8 weeks that the participants can learn skills, cognitive-based compassion skills that will not only improve their life experience, but will improve their relationships with their patients, to provide better care for their patients, less biased care, and also prevent or minimize anxiety, the physiologic changes that can come with stressful situations. And to me, and I'm sure to the listeners, it sounds like nothing but a win-win kind of a practice. And I applaud you all for bringing this to Peoria, to the University of Illinois. I'm so excited that you guys are getting this program started. And if someone wants to learn more about what you all are doing there, learn more about CBCT, what would be some places that they could look to find out some more information about it?
So definitely, if people look up Emory University and search for cognitively based compassion training, they will see a lot of information there. I will be delighted to talk to anyone who is interested as well. And my personal email is B as in boy, my last name, Soares, Soares, the number 1 @gmail.com. Now we'll be delighted to explain more about the program and share our experience. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about CBCT and share with your audience.
Oh, it's my absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing all of the learnings that you've gained and the insights, and I think that this is just the wave of the future. It's the way that we were taught in terms of the medical professionals have been taught in terms of being better practitioners was very much in learning the fund of knowledge and being able to put thoughts together and pick the right drug and that kind of thing. And I think as medicine continues to evolve, both scientifically, obviously your research is cutting edge, but also in terms of being the humanistic, looking at it from a humanistic perspective. As you were speaking, what came to mind was that maybe if we can start looking at medicine, the practice of medicine, as being a human endeavor as opposed to being a superhuman endeavor, it will start to change our perspective and make us better practitioners as we are allowed to express our humanity in a way that is healthy for both us and for our patients.
Beautifully said.
Thank you. Well, thank you again, Dr. Soares. Look forward to hearing more. I hope that you'll come back and give us an update in a few months and let us know how things are going. And for everybody, thank you so much for listening to the Doctor's Life podcast today. I hope that until we meet again, that everyone stays happy and healthy. Take care, everybody.
You've been listening to the Doctor's Life podcast with Diane Ansari-Winn, MD. Go to www.dianeansari-winn.com to read show notes, listen to past episodes, share your comments and show ideas, and pick up your free PDF and video of easy and proven strategies that will melt your daily stress away. That's www.dianeansari-winn.com.